Well, here in the Foundation Seed Warehouse, product is shipping out as we speak. And here to tell us more about the varieties involved is Brett Carver, our wheat breeder. Brett, let's start out with Garrison. This is the big news this year, right?
Correct, and it's big news to the weed improvement team. It represents a step up in terms of disease resistance, and we see it as an alternative to Endurance, which has been a very good variety for Oklahoma. But we wanted to improve upon some characteristics of Endurance, and Garrison certainly does that.
All right, how does it do that?
Well, we're always breeding for better disease resistance. We'd like to be able to deliver to the farmer features that make production just a little bit more reliable, more dependable. And anytime you can breed in disease resistance, you're going to make that possible. As far as the specific diseases we're mentioning or talking about are barley yellow dwarf. You know, we saw a lot of barley yellow dwarf in 2011. We always see barley yellow dwarf. And Garrison does provide a very good level of BYD tolerance. We wouldn't say resistance, it's not immune, but it does tolerate that disease quite well. It also provides a very good level of protection of stripe rust. Now, we didn't see much stripe rust last year, but don't count it out. Yeah, we don't have the moisture conditions going into the season, but who knows what next spring will bring us. If we have moisture then, we probably will have stripe rust. Garrison gives us a good level of protection of stripe rust.
Okay. Now the next big thing we've been hearing a lot about is Ruby Lee. Where are we at with Ruby Lee right now?
Yeah, Ruby Lee is a totally different variety, and in fact it's a little bit behind Garrison as far as seed production. We want to go to another year of foundation seed increase before we turn it loose to register seed producers. So this time next year, there will be plenty of seed of Ruby Lee. All
right, but now why are we excited about Ruby Lee? Tell us what are the characteristics of that.
Ruby Lee gives us a very high yield level. Of course, we like to breed for higher yield all the time, but Ruby Lee seems to ring the bell just a little bit more often than other varieties. Now, it does not have quite that innate disease resistance that we talked about with Garrison, but it sure can ring the yield bell. We're looking at Ruby Lee as a possible alternative to Billings. You know, Billings is a very high-yielding variety with good disease resistance and a lot of good things about it. But with Ruby Lee, we're getting just as good a test weight, just as good a kernel size, but I think better barley yellow dwarf tolerance, which I already mentioned, and also better grazability, better recovery from grazing than Billings. And a little bit better cold tolerance. You know, we had a pretty severe winter last year. We learned a lot about that.
Very good. Now, last time we talked, there were several varieties that, well, they're not this far along. They're not nearly to production yet. But what have you learned about those since?
Wow, we're learning that Duster is making its presence felt in our breeding program, and we're not focusing so much on bringing back another Duster. But Duster is again showing its nice head, so to speak, in terms of wheat compared to other progenies. So we're looking at a couple of lines that have Duster as a parent, so that's 50% of the parentage. Very promising. Duster yield level, but even better disease resistance, I think, than Duster. Even broader reach as far as its yielding ability under a wide range of environmental conditions. You'll see those experimental lines in the wheat variety trials this year, in fact.
Okay. Now, speaking of the variety trials, of course, the weather is a bad problem for everyone in farming, but in particular for your research, what are the effects this weather's having?
Oh boy, it makes me really go slow and take it cautiously. Running a research program, a breeding program, we don't have the opportunity to just go buy seed. We produce what we grow, and we were lucky to produce seed last year. We were struggling just like the Oklahoma wheat producer was. So we do have seed to go back in the field this year, but we're not going to take any chances as far as the weather. We're going to wait till we get a little bit better moisture if we get it. If we don't, we're just going to pull the plug and go with it, just like wheat producers would.
And the results, though, I mean, of course, that the type of year, it doesn't necessarily reflect in the research the average year.
Well, yeah, last year was anything but average,
right.
and you know, it seems like we say that every year, but last year definitely left its imprint on our program, and the two imprints really were drought tolerance. Anything that had drought tolerance, we saw it, we picked it up, and anything that had barley yellow dwarf tolerance, we picked it up. That is going forward now in our program. That's what we're going to be planting back this year.
So this weather and these conditions really have guided where you're going with the
research.
Really
has, in a positive way. There's been a lot of negative about the weather we had and what we experienced last year, but we did gain something from it in terms of research.
All right, thank you for joining us, Brett Carver, OSU's wheat breeder.